We heard a couple of moments or so ago from Alan Smith talking about Antoine Semenyo potentially being a good fit for Liverpool in the January transfer window. He's a player that's attracting a lot of attention at the moment. We've got an update on the Bournemouth forward and his future. Let's speak to our chief correspondent, Kaveh Solokol. Good afternoon, Kaveh. What can you tell us?
Yeah, the race is hotting up for Antoine Semenyo because Chelsea have now made an inquiry to sign him. They've asked for information about the conditions of a possible deal. But before we get too carried away, we should remember that there are a lot of clubs who are interested in signing him next month. Of course, it's not often that you get a player as good as Antoine Semenyo who's available with a release clause in the January window. Now, the release clause, we're led to believe, is around £60 million, and it is valid until the middle of January. We weren't expecting Chelsea to be very busy during this upcoming transfer window, but I think it's just a situation where, you know, this player is so exceptional and he is available at what many people would say is a reasonable fee. And I think that is one of the reasons why Chelsea have made this inquiry for him.
It's interesting, Kaveh, because we talk so often about the level of recruitment at Chelsea since their new owners arrive. Alejandro Garnacho, Jamie Gittins, Esteval, Neto, all options in terms of those wide forward positions. Is this someone who is seen as a player they can't really afford to not have an interest in and not have some discussions in, given the quality of the player? And in context, it's not the biggest release clause in the world.
No, exactly. I think you make some very good points there. I think that is exactly why Chelsea are looking at this potential deal. But look, there are a long list of clubs who are interested in signing him. And we're also in this interesting position where I think clubs have to keep their cards very close to their chest because obviously they don't want to be seen to have missed out on him. And I'm not necessarily talking about Chelsea or any other specific club here. It's just that we're in this position where at the end of the day, Antoine Semenyo is going to have a choice of which club he signs for. I think pretty much everybody in the football world accepts the fact that he is going to leave Bournemouth, before the middle of January. And it's up to him to decide where he wants to go. Now, we've previously reported that Manchester City are interested in signing him. Manchester United have made a move for him as well. What is really interesting is what Liverpool decide to do, because the information we've had is that the player would find it difficult to turn down Liverpool if Liverpool were to make a move for him. So we've seen them in the past leave it very, very late. Liverpool are a club who don't like getting involved in bidding wars. You know, if they think that a player wants to come to Liverpool, they don't see any point in bidding against themselves, even though in this position, there's a simple release clause. All you have to do is pay the release clause, but who knows? You know, when it comes to personal terms, when it comes to negotiating a contract, different clubs are going to be offering different amounts, and it's going to be ultimately down to the player where he decides to go. Does he believe that, you know, his future, his development is best served at a club like Liverpool if they come in for him, or Manchester City working under Pep Guardiola, or working with Ruben Amorim at Manchester United, all the great history that club has, even though they're not in Europe at the moment? Or will Chelsea follow up this inquiry, and will he feel that his future is at Chelsea? Does he feel like maybe he wants to live in London? Does he want to sign up to the so-called Chelsea project? Interesting situation, because we don't normally see this kind of deal in January, but it's just because he's such a good player. And as you say, the release clause is pretty reasonable when you consider how much players of his quality usually move for, especially in the January window.
The final point you would make, Kaveh, is, and we will hear very shortly from Andone Iraola, that it's good business, good contractual work from Bournemouth to have this release clause that changes midway through the window, so that Bournemouth aren't dragged right the way till the start of February with this, that he will likely go in the first couple of weeks, and I'm sure Bournemouth are already in the process of looking for a replacement. No,
exactly. They have been aware for a long time that there is a strong possibility that Semenyo could leave in January. And I think there was a strong possibility that he could leave last summer. which is why they moved quickly to tie him down to a new contract. But obviously, one of the conditions of him signing a new contract from his perspective was that it had this release clause. But again, Bournemouth were very clever because they made sure that the release clause was only active for half the window, which would give them time to replace him. And look, Bournemouth, you don't need me to tell you how well run they are and how great their recruitment is. They have been selling players in the summer to the likes of clubs like Liverpool, like PSG, like Real Madrid, and now they've got all these clubs queuing up to sign Antoine Semenyo for him. If I was a Bournemouth fan, I would obviously be sad to see Antoine Semenyo leaving, but I think I would trust my recruitment department to have lined up, quality replacements who would one day become as good as Antoine Semenyo and as valuable as him.
Let's start, though, with reports that the Chelsea boss, Enzo Maresca, could be in line to replace Pep Guardiola at Manchester City if Guardiola leaves the Etihad at the end of this season. Well, the Manchester City manager still has a year and a half of his contract left to run, but The Athletic's David Ornstein has reported that he could bring his 10-year stay at the club to an end this summer, and his former assistant might replace him.
This is a very well-sourced report in The Athletic, which came out today. I would start off by saying that Pep Guardiola has a contract at Manchester City until the summer of 2027, and Enzo Maresca has a contract at Chelsea until the summer of 2029, and Chelsea also have an option to extend that by a further year. But everybody knows that last Saturday, Enzo Maresca came out during a news conference and said that he felt that he wasn't being supported by some people. He wasn't more specific than that, but obviously there are tensions behind the scenes at Chelsea. I think that has played a part in the reports which we've seen today. Also, the fact that Enzo Maresca has switched agents. A couple of months ago, he moved agents, and he's now represented by Jorge Mendes, one of the biggest agents in world football, somebody who also has a very good relationship with the sporting director at Manchester City. I think we are entering the realm of hypotheticals. If one day Pep Guardiola was to leave Manchester City, would Enzo Maresca be one of the candidates to replace him? I think definitely, because he's done a good job at Chelsea, and also because historically he has links with Manchester City, having worked there previously.
Yes, as Carve said, Maresca has history at City. He spent the 2022-23 season as Guardiola's assistant, having previously worked there as head coach of their elite development squad, where he won the Premier League 2 title. So, how do the two compare? Well, Guardiola was 45 when he was appointed City's head coach. That's the same age that Maresca is now. However, Guardiola had over 400 games under his management belt at Barcelona and Bayern Munich, nearly 3 times as many as Maresca has at Parma, Leicester